everybody, welcome back to Hammer Rugby. I'm Rob Hammerschmidt, and I'm coming back with some Week 6 analysis in Major League Rugby. I've been off for the last 2 weeks, a little bit of a hiatus. I wish I could tell you it's because I went down in Islands and celebrated Mardi Gras with abandon. I didn't, unfortunately. I've been beaten down by those kids at the high school, but I'm back, and I'm cutting loose here this week. I didn't even have a damn punchki, while my stomach didn't appreciate that very much. My hips certainly did. So let's take a look and see what happened this week in Major League Rugby action. Some interesting events and some great things to look forward to. So what did we learn from Week 6 action in Major League Rugby? Number 1, Mother Nature is a cruel, cruel mistress. Number 2, something that I'm taking quite a lot of pride in saying early on, and I'm going to continue to do it, roster depth and roster adjustments becoming critical as we head into the thick of the season. And lastly, road wins. Yeah, they're really, really important. I think they're playing a key factor in some of the team's abilities to reach the top of the table. So let's break down each of these pieces a little bit more closely. One of the most interesting takeaways from Week 6 this week has been the weather. 2 out of the 3 games had snow, not just a little dusting. I mean, we're talking about a blanket of snow was putting itself down on the pitch as the game moved forward. If you haven't had a chance, take a look. I'll feature a couple pieces here, but the snow was awful in both Utah as well as in Glendale. And it affected play. One of my biggest concerns for the league in general is early season weather. It's causing, as I've said before, your northern teams to play on the road in successive weeks. Toronto hasn't had a home game. Rooney hasn't had a home game. And as we move into the 2020 season with the additions of DC to some extent, but more importantly, New England, I think it's going to be tougher and tougher for Major League Rugby to schedule matches and work around difficult weather conditions early in the season. The second takeaway from Week 6 in Major League Rugby action is rosters. Again, I said it early on, with the ARC, America's Rugby Championship, and with a longer season, coaches are going to need to be able to juggle their rosters much more efficiently. And there's a number of teams that really shown the ability to do that, whether through depth or through just having players that can move around and play a variety of positions. And so as I use my notes here and cheat a little bit, there's a couple of teams that stand out. And I'm biased, I'll admit it. My guys down at NOLA, my adopted team, have done a tremendous job. And it shows because they're at the top of the table. But down there, they've got a really nice combo of players at key positions. They've got Youngert at number 9, and Scott Gale at number 10. They're proving to really be a great combination. Of course, J.P. Eloff at fullback has been a standout. And Tristan Blewett from South Africa, here's a guy that's just an absolute animal all over the pitch. And he's just a menace. Love watching him play. And he's been a great service to NOLA. And of course, last but not least, the player of the week from Major League Rugby, Nick Feeks. I'm biased, but LU, Lindenwood is so proud of Nick and what he was able to do this week, but also what he's been able to do in other weeks for NOLA. He's been a utility guy in a couple weeks, standing in at fly half with a start and servicing this week on the wing, where he got Major League Rugby's first ever hat trick. That's right. Nick Feeks, a guy from Australia, got a hat trick this week. The LU boys were incredibly proud of him. But Nick has also come on at fullback as a reserve. So, just the juggling of rosters has been critical for NOLA. Taylor Howden's come in and played tremendously for 2 weeks there in the middle of their run, scored a couple of tries. So rosters are critical for them. For Rooney, Rooney's played away matches, hasn't been at home, but one of the guys that's been at home for them has been Mike Petrie. Been a stalwart, has been a steady force within that lineup. And the other thing that Rooney has done, whether intent or without intent, they've used Dylan Fawcett effectively. Dylan has really been a standout. He's a U.S. Eagle hooker, and the fact that he's only missed one of their matches in service to the Eagles has been of great value to Rooney. And so look for Fawcett to establish himself even more as we move forward into the season. Of course, we have to mention Seattle. Seattle's done a tremendous job. I think they've really done as good a job, maybe better, than NOLA. And for them, I think the interesting guys in roster changes and roster adjustments have been Shalom Saniula, Eric Duchel, Rosaliki. Those guys have been played at a couple different times at various positions, coming in off the bench to really give the team an added oomph when they need it in the second half, or coming on in the first half and really establishing themselves as a dominant power. Duchel had a couple of really nice tries, Rosaliki as well. And of course, who can forget some of their stalwarts have really been solid this season. I really like watching them play. One of those guys that I like, he might be in my top players in the league right now, my starting 15, Brock Stoller. That Canadian, he's a big lad, on the wing, great boot. I really like watching Brock play. I'd take him on any team 7 days a week and, one more time on Saturday if I had to. Ben Sema has been a really nice player. His boot has been tremendous. But what I like is Richie Walker has done a really nice thing. First of all, Richie's come on as a coach. Last year, player coach has been the Canadian Phil Mack. And, he played every minute of every match last season for Seattle. This year, he's kind of had that pressure of being the coach relieved by Richie Walker. And then I think Richie's done a really nice job. He's played Phil coming off the bench. He's played him in some key starts, and he's given J.P. Smith a couple of really nice starts too. And I think it's been effective for Seattle. They've gotten that nice kick in the backside when they've needed it from Phil, and they have a really nice counterbalance and attack when they have Smith in at 9. So they've done a nice job. And last but not least, I want to mention the Legion. They perhaps are, I don't want to say an underdog, but they're not sparking the talk like, of course, Seattle is, because they're the returning champ, or because NOLA is sparking some conversation because they were at the bottom of the table last year and now they're at the top, so they've had quite a turnaround. Or like Rooney, who's the new kid on the block. Sorry, bad pun. But, coming on and really being a dominant force. San Diego is the one to watch. I think they're kind of a sleeper in there. And some of the guys for me that are standing out, particularly in the last couple of weeks, well, I shouldn't say the last couple of weeks, Joe Peterson has been an absolute stud. And I love him because he's like 34 and he's still playing out of his mind. And the combo with him and Osberger has been really tremendous. Osberger's really packed a punch. The two of them put in together for a try by Peterson 2 weeks ago, I believe, that really put them ahead. And then we've seen Stanfill and Patty Ryan, two stalwarts in their lineup in the forward pack, really establish dominance. And then, of course, who can forget Mikey Te'eo? Mikey is, of course, coming off an injury, has had a little bit of service with the United States, but hasn't been in the ARC selection quite yet. But he's played some really heads-up ball, and he's gotten some key tries that have offered a spark for San Diego during critical points in the match. And I would suspect all those guys will continue to play key factors in San Diego as we move into successive weeks. So look for all those names as we move forward and seeing what those guys can do. The last takeaway from week 6 is, again, a bit of a reoccurring theme, but it's something that we need to pay more and more attention to as the season progresses. And that's away wins. So NOLA had a string of 4 home matches, and then they went away and they got a win from Utah in the waning minutes of the match in that ridiculous snowstorm. but they showed a tremendous amount of resilience. The fact that they were able to get that match and come away with a W, I think was critical because they're at the tops of the table going into a bye week. So they have a little bit of a buffer. And then they go into 2 successive weeks where they are away at Austin and Houston. So, those away wins are going to be critical. Rooney's the other one that I think is really going to be interesting to watch with regard to away wins. Rooney hasn't had a home match yet. They've only lost one. They beat NOLA in New Orleans. They've, like I said, lost one match, so they're 4-1. And what'll be interesting to see is how teams respond when they have to travel to New York. I have a feeling and a sneaking suspicion that it's going to be a tough place to play in New York, and that will be a strength for Rugby United New York. So look for that as we move forward in the next couple of weeks. The other one I think we have to mention is Seattle. Seattle is a class act insofar as their ability to connect with their fan base. They have sold out every single match this season, which tells you a little bit of something about what it's going to be like to play for teams that come into Seattle. Their fans, and I'm saying it right now, we're going to call them the 16th man. Just like the NFL Seahawks have the 12th man, this is the 16th man. That fan base is absolutely rabid for the Seawolves. The players connect well with them. They have a connection with their fan base. And I think Shane Skinner and the boys have done a tremendous job in this regard. And so look for them to establish dominance at home and then get a couple road wins. And Seattle, I think, is going to be one of those teams at the top when we get to the end of the season. So look for teams to get those road wins. The ones that get the road wins are really going to be the teams that are going to appear at the top of the table as we get into June. So what's on tap for Week 7 in MLR action? We've got a great weekend ahead of us, 2 doubleheaders. On Saturday, March 9th, Austin travels to Glendale for an 8 p.m. Central Standard Time start. Rooney does battle in Utah. They'll also be playing at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. On Sunday, March 10th, Seattle will play host to Houston for a 7 p.m. Central Standard Time start. And Toronto will travel to the West Coast. They'll do battle with the Legion in the late match, which is at 9:30 Central Standard Time. So who are my picks to click this week? I think you got to go with Glendale. They're going to be tough at home. And quite frankly, Austin hasn't seen a win this season. They've come close, but they're going to struggle again this week, unfortunately. In the battle of the week, Rooney versus Utah, I expect to see Rooney come out on top of that, but that is definitely the match to watch. If you watch one this weekend, try to catch that one on Saturday night. On Sunday, my pick to click is Seattle and San Diego. I think the Toronto is going to be a tough match. It's going to be a formidable foe, difficult traveling across the country to the States, and I think San Diego plays well at home. Having said all that, keep an eye out for a couple of things I mentioned in the early part of the segment. Number one, watch for weather. It's supposed to rain this weekend, and it's supposed to be cold throughout the country, so expect that to be a factor in handling. Number two, watch for roster changes. Pay attention to how coaches juggle the rosters to get the most out of their team. And the last piece is, in my picks to click, I only have one away team, Rooney, winning. Watch to see if not only them, but one of the other teams might steal an away win. Perhaps Toronto, that might be the one that would have the best chance. If they can, that can really do them some good service, especially because both Rooney and Toronto are soon to have a string of home matches in which they can establish themselves and gather some points. So enjoy the week in Major League Rugby. It should be awesome. And look forward to next week where I'll break down Week 7 in Major League Rugby action. Thanks for watching.